All right, so I just left the movie theater. I saw Justice League, directed by Zack Snyder, with some reshoots from Joss Whedon and rewrites with Joss Whedon because unfortunately Zack Snyder had to leave the project midway because his daughter committed suicide. And when I got home, I received the tragic news that Hiromi Suru, who voices Bulma in Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Super, passed away. So I'm gonna try and get through this review here. I'm a little, quite a bit upset at that, but I'm gonna probably do a tribute stream over on my Dragon Ball channel, Geekdom 101. I want to keep this review professional for you guys and staying on topic, okay? Because I did promise I would have this review out tonight, and I don't want to break a promise. So let's talk about Justice League, okay? This is gonna be a non-spoiler review. Tomorrow, probably tomorrow on World of Geekdom, I'm going to give you the spoiler review where we're going to talk more about what actually happened in the film. But I'm just going to say that, you know, this movie, okay, is it good? Is it bad? It's better, in my opinion, than Man of Steel, and it's better, in my opinion, than Batman v Superman. It's not as good as Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman had an amazing story, amazing characters, and it just had cinematography was great, just tremendous film. But this film was a lot of fun to watch. And I will say this, okay? This is a very polarizing movie right now. I'm going to give you my opinion. There's good in this movie, and there's bad in this movie. The good in this movie, I think, comes from the fact that the movie feels like a comic book in a good way. It's still got that Zack Snyder kind of dark vibe to it, but Joss Whedon coming in to lighten things up gave it more balance. Some people are saying the movie had tonal problems. I somewhat see where they're coming from, but it didn't bother me. But I think that's also because I was accustomed to it because I've seen so many Marvel movies like Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron that kind of had weird tonal things. It didn't bother me that much. For some people it didn't bother me that much. This was a fun movie to watch, and I think a big reason for that is because I love these characters, and I hate to say this, but I am kind of a fanboy for the Justice League. Like, I have been wanting to see this movie since I was a kid, but I have to stop being a fanboy for this review and give you an honest, critical review of the film. And I'm going to do that right now. The movie was fun. The movie had really good action sequences, good acting overall. Everybody did a great job, in my opinion. Ben Affleck, Amy Adams, Gal Gadot, of course, I love her. Ezra Miller was fun. Jason Momoa was a cool badass. Ray Fisher was like a lovable kind of, painful backstory kind of character. And then the side characters like Jeremy Irons, Diane Lane, J.K. Simmons all did a pretty good job. So there's really nothing that was bad as far as acting went in the movie. There were a couple of awkward scenes with Henry Cavill, who returned to reprise the role of Superman, but not anything too crazy. Now, that's a good thing, and I thought it was, again, a fun movie to watch, and I really want to see the 3-hour cut of this movie. I really want to see it because you could tell, and I've seen other people talk about this, and it's definitely true. There were a lot of very awkward cuts and awkward editing in the movie. The movie feels very fast-paced. It's 2 hours long, and there's probably a whole bunch of extra stuff, probably backstory that you could tell was just kind of skipped over because they chopped it out of the movie. And for once, unlike Batman v Superman, which I thought was very slow paced and very long, this movie I thought was very fast paced and very short. I feel like the team movies, the Justice League, that's the movie that should be 3 hours because they had to do a lot of things. They had to get the team together, do a little bit of backstory, a little bit of storytelling there. They had to introduce Steppenwolf, the villain. They had to tell the backstory of him, and they had to bring the team together and then I'm not going to spoil it, but you know where I'm going with this as far as the Superman situation, and then kind of build to a finale. And as a result of that, the movie did feel rushed. It was definitely rushed. People are saying, oh, it's fast-paced. No, the movie felt rushed, especially in that third act. The third act was supposed to be epic in scale. Like, they were going for that big, epic, like, Avengers ending kind of thing. And it just didn't hit because it was too fast-paced. It was almost like it was cut short. And you had this big final battle with Steppenwolf and the Parademons, and it just wasn't to the level of the final battles in other kind of comic book movies that have similar final battles, like the X-Men movies even. It was just kind of felt like it was cut too short. It kind of felt like an old episode of the Justice League cartoon or the Justice League, the Super Friends cartoon, whichever one. It felt more like a TV show in that, like a two-part episode, the way it was structured. Like, it was so fast paced and they didn't give the characters enough room to breathe as much as I wish they would have. They definitely did some good stuff with Wonder Woman and with Batman in the movie. Gal Gadot is amazing. They introduced them awesome at the beginning of the film, showing what they can do and having some awesome sequences to start the movie out. I mean, I had a big smile on my face for all that stuff. It was all amazing. Huge smile on my face for that. And then near the end of the movie, I just felt like they wanted to, just get to the end. And it just didn't feel as epic as I really wanted it to for the Justice League movie. But I am hoping they do come back and do a sequel because they certainly left a lot of things open. And there are tons of Easter eggs in this movie for DC fans. I'm going to talk more about that in the spoiler review. Now, when it comes to the big final battle at the end, obviously most of you know Superman is in this movie. I loved the portrayal of Superman in this movie. This is the campy but yet awesome hero that Superman should have been from the beginning of the Zack Snyder DCEU. This is the way he should have been. He came in there, he was classic Superman, he was confident, he was trying to do the right thing. There was one part though, and I'm going to talk about it more in the spoilers review coming out tomorrow, that really, really bugged me. And if you've seen the movie, you probably can figure out what I'm talking about. But there was one thing Superman did in this movie that was early when he was in it that was kind of stupid in my opinion. Again, there are things about this movie that are kind of stupid. Another thing that I thought was kind of stupid was in the big finale, they have this big final battle in like Russia, right? And I'm not going to get into spoilers, but the city that they had the final battle in was like abandoned except for like one family. I don't understand this. Like they kept showing like this one family over and over again, and they wound up being, obviously the heroes are going to do something, but it just felt very like shoehorned in. It just felt very cheaply made. Like it was dumb. I mean, that was dumb that they only had one family there. It's like they had to give the heroes a group of civilians to save just to have them be heroic. And it was pointless. Either abandon the entire city or have people there. And it really felt like the end of X-Men Apocalypse, where you had that, where they were having that big finale battle with Apocalypse, except this one was a lot shorter. I thought that one was drawn out and kind of boring. This one was not as drawn out or boring. And Superman's chemistry on screen with the other characters and the way that they wrapped up the story with him and Bruce was really, really good. But there was some dumb stuff here as well, like some really dumb stuff. But to be honest with you, there wasn't anywhere close to as much dumb stuff in this movie as Batman v Superman. That movie had tons of stuff where I just was left scratching my head. And the extended cut did help that, okay? The Batman Superman extended cut really fixed a lot of the questions I had. With this movie, I had way less questions. So it was much, much more of like an adventure story. Like this movie's more of an adventure tale. The CGI was very hit or miss. I didn't really hate it too much. I know a lot of critics were saying that it wasn't very good. I was watching and reading some reviews earlier this week, which I usually don't do. I usually stay away from that. But when I saw it, it really didn't bother me at all. There was some awkward moments with CGI, but nothing where I thought it took me out of the movie. And seeing the Justice League fight together was very satisfying to see on screen. Wonder Woman was such a badass. I mean, he definitely was Batman. He was more of a detective, but not as much as I would have liked. They're probably saving that for the Batman solo story, but the idea of him being this, what I liked is that they did play up the Batman v Superman stuff where he's like got a lot of guilt over what he did, and he wants to bring Superman back because he feels guilty for even giving him all those headaches he gave him in the last movie. And I really liked that. It was almost like the movie was like a meta film in that it gave us, because the movie had this big message of hope, hope for the future. And it almost felt like the movie was telling us that the DCEU has hope and that they knew they screwed up. It was almost like Bruce Wayne was Zack Snyder. Like he knew that they screwed up with Batman v Superman, and now they're trying to fix it with this movie. I don't know if they fully fixed everything. There's still a lot of cheesiness here in the movie. I heard a lot of complaints about Steppenwolf and how he's a one-dimensional villain. Yeah, but that's how Steppenwolf is in the comics. You have to understand, in the comics, Steppenwolf is pretty much the general for Darkseid, and that's all he is. He has no character. So for the movie, they had to either create a character for him and waste more screen time for that to make up a story, or just keep him a one-dimensional villain. And to be honest with you, it didn't bother me that much because the main story behind the movie was them bringing the heroes together. That's the main story. Now the question is it chapter 1? Where do we go from here? That's the question. They're definitely going to make more DC movies. We know that. But where do we go from here? I feel like, and I really hope, that Ben Affleck sticks around. I really want him to, because he's great as the older Bruce Wayne. He's beat up. He's tired. They even mentioned the movie. He's like, I've been doing this for 20 years. You know, I need some help with this one. Love that. Love that kind of aspect of that character. Like, I love that Bruce Wayne was vulnerable, right? But also was confident. Like, I really like the layers of the characters. I mean, they really did a good job with the characters in this movie, dude. That's one thing that really surprised me, is I've always felt that Zack Snyder was not a very good director when it came to characters. He can do some pretty good visual stuff. I'm not going to hate on the dude, you know, especially since he went through a horrible tragedy with his daughter committing suicide. But I felt like with this movie, he really figured out, and maybe some of it was Joss Whedon, he really figured out how to capture it right. And people have been saying, is it a Whedon film or is it a Snyder film? It's a Whedon film that's shot like a Snyder film. That's the answer. It's a Whedon film shot like a Snyder film. The characters were all kind of lighthearted, and there were some jokes that hit, some jokes that didn't hit, but overall, I had fun. I had fun watching this movie, and when I first watched Batman vs. Superman, by the halfway point, I was angry. I was like, this is bad. But with this movie, I really want to see more. Like, they actually made me want to see more. I want to see more Superman. I want to see more Batman. I want to see more Wonder Woman. And I also want to see what they do with Arthur Curry, Barry Allen, and Cyborg. You know, Cyborg was a lot of fun in this movie. And with Aquaman, they didn't do that much with him. They didn't do that much of a backstory. Didn't give away too much of him. They're probably saving that for his solo movie. With The Flash, he had a little bit of a backstory, but they had to shave it. Again, they had to shave it, and that to me kind of did hurt the movie. I actually am going to say, just like with Batman v Superman, that I feel like a 3-hour version or a 2.5-hour version is going to be much better. But still, the movie has problems. Like the finale, I think, again, way too rushed. I thought that Steppenwolf was a weak villain, but I knew that going in, so it didn't really bother me that much. And I thought that they had a few too many homages to the DC Comics. And again, this is not a bad thing. If you are a hardcore DC fan, you'll notice things that I'm not going to talk about because it's a big-time spoiler that were in this movie. But if you're not a hardcore DC fan, if you don't know about the comics, or if you don't even know about the TV shows, you might not get the references. Which, it's okay to do stuff like that. Like in Doctor Strange, we heard the Living Tribunal staff and all that. It's okay to do stuff like that once in a while. But I can't really knock the movie for that. I really can't. I just wonder where we go from here. This was a solid, like, chapter 1. And I know that Man of Steel was the real first chapter, right? But the idea of these heroes coming back for a sequel is something that I honestly want. I want it. Seriously. Like, I want another Justice League movie. And that's, to me, tells me that they did a good job with this one, you know? But it does have problems. I'm going to go over more of the problems in the spoiler review. So, I think if you did not like Batman v Superman, you should watch this movie. It did fix a lot of the problems that were in that movie as far as Bruce and Clark's relationship, more expounding upon that. But don't expect it to be anywhere near as good as Wonder Woman, because that movie was freaking amazing start to finish with a great story. This one was more of like, it really was like a TV show. Like it really felt like an episodic episode of like the Super Friends. It really felt that way. Rushed like crazy. We got to get to the end, but enjoyable, honestly, and fun. So it was a fun movie, dude. I'm not even gonna BS. It was a fun movie. Where do they go from here? What do you think? Let me know in the comments, because they did tease several things for the future. And I mean, again, I'm not gonna get into it. Watch the post-credit scenes and the stuff near the end and the dialogue. Pay attention to that and the backstory. There's tons of homages, tons of clues of what's to come. But will they go there? Knowing that DC has all these freaking problems with, like, they don't know where they're going to go with the story. Ben Affleck doesn't want to do Batman anymore. Zack Snyder's got his thing going on, which, again, Don't really blame him for that whatsoever. I don't know what's going to happen. DC's a mess, but they put together a movie that I thought was felt a little weird sometimes, but again, I had a good time. Also, Danny Elfman scoring this movie, incredible. I had goosebumps. They played the Batman theme. They played the John Williams Superman theme, like a little tribute to it. Dude, they played the 89 Batman theme, bro. They played the 89 fucking Batman theme. And they had, like, all the music. It didn't feel like a Tim Burton movie. It felt like the 80s Batman mixed with Snyder, which is the way it should have been. Like, it actually felt, like a superhero movie, dude. Oh, Danny Elfman. Don't ever hate on Danny Elfman, bro. He is a genius, and he knocked it out of the park. So let me know what you thought about the movie in the comments. Spoiler review coming tomorrow. We're going to go into a lot of the stuff in depth. A little bit longer video there, but I hope y'all enjoy that one. If you've seen the movie, that's the review. We can talk about it for sure. With this one, non-spoiler, I think you should go out and see this movie. It's not a must-see movie, but you won't be disappointed if you just want to see some action and you enjoy superhero action. If that's what you want, you're going to get it. If you want more than that, this is not Wonder Woman. This is not Civil War. Forget it. You're not going to get anything as deep as that. But it was just a wacky popcorn movie with some problems, but I wasn't bored. And if I'm not bored, that's a good thing. Thank you. Talk to you guys later.